thank you, the thousands of people who are on here at any point just despairing, basically, at my ability to use this properly. I'm just going to see if I can get the amazing Peter de Jersey back. One sec. Let's see. Are you there, Peter? Waiting for Peter de Jersey, who's doing some amazing acting at the moment. Okay, let's give that. Hey everyone, what I'm gonna do while I try and find Peter is just see if there's a question that I can try to answer. So do post some. Hang on, I think these requests are coming up. Thank you for your encouragement. Someone's very kind of saying it's part of the experience and I'm doing well. I appreciate that. I also appreciate Alistair Coomer just come on here and laughing openly at me, who's our amazing casting director. Peter.
Hello.
So sorry. Okay, let's try that again. Pete, have you been watching or have you been putting your kids to bed?
I've been putting my kids to bed, so unfortunately I haven't been watching.
You've been amazing.
What I've been doing is I tuned in to see a few of the comments that my other playmates have been making, and I've been enjoying it and journeying back. But the fact is that the child that I've been trying to get to settle, and he's very good, he was born, as you recall, in our first week of rehearsal. He is now 6. No. So that gives us all a bit of a time frame for all of this. That does give us
a time frame. Yes, yeah. Peter, selfishly, I had totally forgotten that. I think mainly because I was worrying about sort of chairs and paint and...
Chairs and paint and everything. Well, you gave me a call and I was in the park with my family and my first son, and we knew that the second one was coming along. And I said to you, Jess, I'll just have a word with my wife and see if that's all right. Being that we'll start rehearsals, when the baby is due. And she said, absolutely, that's going to be fine. And so I called you back. And while I was swinging my other child, we sort of, we got it all going, which is great.
Peter, you were in the first play I ever directed at the Royal Shakespeare Company that I was reminiscing about the other day with my friend Bennett Brandreth, who came in to do that amazing work on rhetoric.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. So Erin Murphy just texted me to say, you're sideways on Instagram Live. Yes, Erin. Thank you, I know.
Yeah.
The nation
maybe you're
knows.
the only one going in the right direction.
But one neighbour, her 8-year-old son, Finn, has just sent me a picture where he's trying to be sideways to show me what I look like. So I think, yeah, everyone's pretty clear about that. But
yes.
So Pete, I was just, it was so wonderful to work with you on one of the first classical plays I directed, and I was so
believe what you will. Yeah,
when you said we do this, and it was a wonderful experience. And I think it is you anyway, and it is in your character to be this wonderful, gentle leader of people. But you were such a great creative force and balm to the company. And I've got such fond memories of how lovely you were with everyone. I mean, you are lovely, but...
Well, that's very kind. I think that it's an interesting thing. The more complicated a play is, I think more than often the cast can have a really great time because you need some relief. So you get an opportunity to bond, and everyone was very open and up for telling this story. So because we were dealing with some very difficult things, I think our kickback was to enjoy ourselves. So we all had a ridiculously silly time because we knew we had to go to some very uncomfortable places in the story,
Yeah. And I think Cominius, his torment at the fall of his star player is really beautifully acted by you in this, and you really feel it. You feel people suffering in lots and lots of different ways.
Yes, I mean, when I had a brief look earlier and what was going on this evening, I saw yourself and Tom talking about the absence of a father figure, and
you're like, wait a minute.
Oh no! I thought I think this is where Cominius comes into play in the story. And you had the wonderful idea of having the young Marcius wandering around. And from my point of view, I was thinking very much of somebody who was thinking at some time they're going to have to pass on the baton for the glory of Rome and for it to, to continue. Yeah. And I used to take the images that I would see on the stage of the young Marcius the son, and I'd make him Coriolanus, and it would be my first images of him. Yeah. And I'd sort of build on that throughout. And so whenever I was working with Tom, I'd always have this image of a child in the background. Yeah. And I can't remember the name of the philosopher, but I think that Comenius understands the nature of Marcius, that he's quite a fiery personality, but he thinks and believes that he's going to be able to shape him. And I think there's an opportunity there to shape him. Many of his mentors do. But I can't remember which philosopher said it. It said the human character is very much like a charioteer trying to control two horses pulling in different directions. And I believe that Comenius saw in Coriolanus a potential great leader with rough edges that needs to be guided. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. That charioteer image is fantastic, Peter, and it's exactly that kind of classy analogy that makes you so joyful to rehearse with.
Well, I just think if you're going to be a leader, it takes a great deal, and not all of it's going to be pretty. And I think this is what Shakespeare examines. We ultimately it will come down to. So I think, of a quote from Martin Luther King, we have to live together as brothers or die as fools. Who we choose as our leaders, we have to answer for that. And I think that for Comenius throughout this story, he sees great potential and is hugely disappointed with the outcome. Yeah. And is sort of, devastated by it all, really, because what could have gone so well turns out to be, a great tragedy, really.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's right. I think that's so cute, Pete. And this is so great, this moment. I'm so pleased that you're on Instagram as this moment is playing out for in the same place as me. Just your suffering at being unable to recall him to the father that you've been for him.
Yes, I mean, there's later on the stuff when, he's turned away by Coriolanus, and he says to him, he reports back and says, yeah. He's going to unleash such a terror as was never seen before. Yeah. And we cut to a little while earlier, and you're saying that he's elected this man to be the next leader of Rome, and I love the line, all is his. His actions, he turns terror into sport. So he knows he's dealing with someone who is completely dangerous. And and all that's going on with the tribunes, who Comenius has dealt with. I have served Rome, I think he's taken knocks, and he sees what's happening to Coriolanus and hopes that he can pull him back from the brink, but it's not to be.
Yeah. Spoiler. Right. I might be. I'm just going to go and see. I think that's okay, Pete. If I can grab Tom back, and I'm very much hoping we can get a couple of other people on.
Yes.
And the play is hurtling towards its conclusion. It is so wonderful to see you.
Lovely to see you too. Just to share something with everyone. Everyone asked, what's your favourite point in a play? I think it was when you told us in the second half we wouldn't be sitting at the back.
Oh, mate. Oh, I tell you, we should get Elliot Levy back, because there was some shit going on in that lineup. I don't know if you I think what happened is you sort of developed a kind of weird communication by vibration.
Yes,
when you were sitting there very generously watching the scenes that were taking place in front of you.
Which was great to watch and to enjoy everyone's work.
Yeah, I can only continue to apologise for keeping...
Don't apologise, it was a strong theatrical image. And that was Rome. We were the observed of all observers. So.
Yeah, great image, shit job.
Yeah. All right.
I'll see you soon. Take care.
See you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, everyone. So I am going to just see if it's possible Let's see who's there. Do we have Tom Hiddleston still there? We do not. So, Tom, I'm sure you're still watching. Jump back on and I'll try and jump you back in. And in the meantime, while... Oh, is that you there? You've just popped up. No, that is... I could get better at this. I could get better at it. I feel like... Because what's happening is... No, there you are. I've requested you, but sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So let's see if you're going to pop back on. Do I have any tips how to overcome nerves as a drama student? I'm sorry. Have I ever written a book about theatre? I have not written a book about theatre. I probably should be doing that during lockdown. Tom, there you are.
Hi.
Hello. Brilliant. Someone's just saying, I'm like the David Attenborough trying to find the elusive bird that is you. That is really beautiful, and I feel like people are just probably getting into metaphor. The National Theatre says I'm doing so great, Josie. So that's very encouraging. Thank you, National Theatre.
I loved what Peter was saying about...
Beautiful, wasn't it?
Yes, all of it.
Yeah.
Two horses, both going in different directions.
Yeah.
I think that's Plato.
Is it?
I think that's a Platoism, yeah.
Ooh. I mean, you're good, Tom. Has anyone Googled it? People should... Actually, you should be watching Coriolanus. So we will find that out later and post.
We will.
We will source Peter's quote.
Yeah.
Now, my...
see everyone.
What's that done?
It's so nice to see everyone.
I know.
I think this endeavour we did.
Yeah.
Also, what Peter was saying about what a fun time we had. Often very true. I've done 2 Shakespearean tragedies in the Donmar Warehouse, Othello and Coriolanus. And on both occasions, we've had a kind of unreasonably good time backstage. A lot of laughter is my memory of both companies. And I think that's something you have to, you sort of have to some people say when they come and see you do something that's very heavy, they go, God, this must be such hard work. And you're sustained by the levity that somehow the joint endeavour gives to you. And as we know, Deborah Findlay, the great Deborah Findlay, used to initiate a nightly Deb's disco.
Yes.
Which is basically a kind of backstage, literally a backstage disco to a European dance track, The Great Beauty by Paolo Sorrentino. And the dancing was a way of sort of leavening the gravity of what we were about to go and do.
Yeah. Because it is an exceptionally heavy play. And it's going into this final straight now, those of you who are with us and watching, where it becomes unconquerably bleak and difficult to watch and endure. And being probably, along with Erin Murphy, our DSM, who was on at the start, the person who watched it the most, it was never not extraordinarily moving. And we're about to go into the bit of the play where Menenius, who is your great ally, in a different way from Cominius, played by Peter de Josie, who we just saw, to an extent your father figure, is tormented at the entrance to your treacherous camp. You know, he's mishandled, and he's going to come in and plead with you. Someone's just saying on the comments, Tom, smile. He can't smile while he's thinking about it because it's so sad, this scene.
I love the. There's a line, and Mark delivered this so beautifully. Is Menenius, Mark's character is so believes that he has the constancy of Marcia's affection, that he might be rude or unreconciled with people he doesn't know as well, but it's Menenius, it's his uncle, it's family, it's his people.
Yeah.
And he is rebuffed with such extreme coldness and such extreme cruelty. And the poetry Menenius has here is some of the most eloquent in the play, which expresses both Menenius' shock and what's happened to the soul of Coriolanus. Which is, he says, after this scene, he says, he's changed from man to dragon. When he walks, he moves like an engine, and the ground shakes before his treading.
Yeah.
And that image was such a great note for me from Shakespeare, which is
in a pre-robotic, in a kind of pre-machine age, in a pre-industrial age. It's an industrial image from Shakespeare, you know.
But they don't have engines, or they don't, you know, that this man has become a machine.
Yeah.
Something without feeling or sentiment, without compassion, without empathy, without any human softness.
Yeah.
At this point, and it's
and he hardens and hardens and hardens, doesn't he, until the conclusion? Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at Mark's face here, which is a sentiment that's born in its own version by Peter de Josie when he comes back to relate in an earlier scene, the scene that he couldn't persuade you. It's that awful realization that someone you love so much you cannot change, and whatever has occurred between you is irrevocable and can't be fixed. You know, I think it's funny, actually, I was thinking of this moment between you when I saw you in Betrayal, because I think that one of the things that you as a cast embodied so poetically and beautifully in Jamie Lloyd's fantastic production was the idea that something occurred that could not be fixed, and what the consequence of that was.
And people incapable of the correct kind of communication, which would engender forgiveness.
Yeah.
And reconciliation.
Yeah.
You know, what's the breaking point?
Yeah.
This martyrs has wings, says Menenius.
There you go.
He's changed from man to dragon. It's such a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
That he's somehow corrupted his soul with such an intensity of internal fire. You know?
The brilliant Robert Hastie, who is the associate director on this production, now on Sheffield Theatres, and I actually sat together for a week with the play, and Rob, mainly, me a bit, but mainly Rob, did something which it takes a very skilled cutter of Shakespeare to do. He crafted this scene that you're watching now with Mark. So we had to cut very heavily toward the end of the play because we didn't have enough cast members to do the scale of it, and also wanted to streamline it, I guess, a bit. So there's lots of scenes with Volskis in them that aren't there. But Mark will do what is effectively a soliloquy that's been crafted by Rob and me a bit, to stand for a lot of action that we compressed in this part of the play, and he does it so
amazing,
beautifully.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's so great. Someone's just said they can't donate from where they are via Instagram. If you want to go onto the National Theatre's website, you can donate there via PayPal if you are international, or there are text numbers you can text to, just to say and answer that question. Tom, I just had a really good question that I thought, just to come off topic slightly, you'd be well placed to answer. Any advice for women directors? And I'm definitely a woman director, but you have worked with many women directors.
Do I have advice for women?
Yeah, someone who's an aspiring female director, but I just thought, you've worked with so many women directors, and I suppose, is there something, I'm sure they're all infinitely different, but is there something that draws you particularly toward working with them? Is it about them as individual artists, or do you think there's a different quality or vibe that you get from working with a female director?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I would. I just want to. I would first want to kind of redirect the energy. Probably the best advice for women directors is to come from women directors. So I don't want to mansplain my way into this.
No, okay, yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, but
well,
at the
that's
same
very
time,
respectful. But
at the same time, look, I've been very lucky in my life to work with lots of women, a huge number in film and in theatre, on contemporary work and in classical work, and there's an argument to be made that maybe my most interesting work has been directed by women, and I don't know. I would hate to generalize about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wrong to pull you toward a generalization. You're right, Tom. It's just I think
the experiences have been wonderful. I mean, including with you, Josie. I'll be honest. It's I've had
really because while you were off this Instagram live, I was having to do this so I could charge my phone. So like, I'm clearly not that great at directing.
Well, okay. Well, but you solved it though. I watched it in awe and wonder about this repetitive situation. But it was very funny. It was very funny when you were trying to read the comments with Hadley and you were just doing that.
Yeah.
And it was
trying to get Rosie to come in her pajamas. Yeah.
So, by the way, I'll come back. I should respond to Hadley's question, which is that the beard is very soft, just in case everyone was wondering.
Okay, that's good. And I'm just going to repeat.
But I want to detract from your question.
Went down. We can confirm that Hadley's beard is soft.
There you go. But do I have advice for women directors? I suppose my advice, I'm very hesitant to give advice, often because I believe that most people like to find their own way. But to that end, if I had any advice to give, it's to how best to say this, to just be as true to yourself as you can, because there are, and I'd say that to anyone who is an artist, is that the more honest and authentic you can be about your own personal experience of being alive, the more likely the specificity of that experience will connect with somebody else. And so not to try to bend or shift or change or just be honest about what you want to say, and say it as loudly as you can. Tell the story that you want to say. I'm curious, what advice do you have for women directors?
I mean, that I think what you said is the Shakespeare version of that, isn't it? Is to thine own self be true.
Yes.
And I think it's
and it must follow as night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man.
Romping in with another 12 points there for completing the quote. So I think yes, and I think for me anyway, it takes a long time to work out who you are and how you want to articulate that, and sometimes you're doing that through your work. So sometimes a call to authenticity with yourself can actually generate confusion as much as it can clarity. So it's okay to say you don't know. It's okay to be uncertain. It's okay to be in a rehearsal room and to know that from your authority can come the response, I don't know what we're going to do about that, let's work it out. And I think sometimes the expectation that's put on you is to, as a woman, is to deliver and to be efficient and to be perfect and to get things right. And sometimes it's not about getting it right. And I think the older I get, for I am getting older, the other thing I realize is that the work of other women directors, and also the work of anybody whose voice may have been excluded from the process of telling stories, on film in particular, in theatre certainly as well, is that every time you do that, you make some space for other people. And that's a powerful thing. So actually, even if you don't feel like your endeavour has ever completely succeeded, because you never do when you do a play or direct a film, or if you never go, wow, I aced that, you know, you'll always have that voice in your head that goes, it wasn't right. Know that part of what you're doing is making space for people. So,
that's great. Yeah.
Say that.
Massive shout out to all the other women directors as well
that you've worked with. Amazing people.
Joanna Hogg, Thea Sharrock, Susanna Beer, Hetty MacDonald, Aisling Walsh. Hang on.
Who's directing your current thing? Who's that?
Kate Herron. Kate Herron.
There you go.
Directing Loki.
There's that small boy finally getting an opportunity to act, not paint.
Yes.
That's good.
I am unfortunately drawing a terrible blank. I know there's more which I feel awful about, but I don't have my...
They don't mind, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
Final straight, yeah.
This is it. This is where he's trying to shore up his reserves of obstinacy.
Yeah.
And actually, he can feel it. So Marcius knows he's isolated himself, and he's so stubborn in his refusal to accept any desire for reconciliation from Rome. And he now knows this is his biggest test, which is at the arrival of his wife, his son, and his mother.
Yeah.
And it will be very hard to turn them away. And you can see himself almost kind of, he sort of stores himself up with a kind of coldness, as if to fortify himself against compassion.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a big challenge, because if Coriolanus is a man of honor, how honorable is it to turn your mother away?
Yeah.
And this is, I don't know, there's all the humility which he has lacked for the whole play is starting to rise, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe he's starting to feel the shame and the consequence. I keep coming back to this word consequence, by which I mean, in life, you do something and there is a result of what you do. And Marcius seems to be unaware of the result. He just doesn't think about consequence. What's going to happen if I say this? What's going to happen if I do this? He just does it. And in this scene, he's starting to become aware of the gravity of the consequences of his actions.
Yeah.
Which is why I keep talking about his lack of capacity to self-reflect, which my rather nerdy Shakespearean brain starts to go, in so many of his tragedies, the protagonist is allowed to soliloquize, is allowed to talk to the audience and think things through.
Yeah, Hamlet mainly goes, hang on a minute, can I just have a think about this?
Wait, let's all just wait and think about this for a second. And Hamlet's great source of shame is that he says at one point, I'm thinking too much. I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
And he's almost tortured by the doubt of it. Coriolanus has no doubt. He only has certainty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to try, Tom, just because we are very close to the final straight, aren't we? I'm going to jump out from you and just really quickly see if I can say hi to Sunita, who was the fourth backstage.
Oh, Sunita.
Is that all right? Let me
great.
See if I can do that. But
Sunita,
do that thing where you're ready to come back in. I don't want to miss the end of the play with you.
Okay.
So,
Sunita was our company manager, and responsible for everyone and everything.
Yeah.
And she wears more hats in terms of the job she did than any other person in this company.
Okay, I'm jumping out before Deborah Finley cracks you.
Okay.
Sunit, are you there? Let's give this a go. Where are you? Where are you? Let's hope this works. Sorry, there are so many people trying to jump in. Can't see you, Sunita. No, this is too bad. I can see Alistair Kumar. Can I bring in Alistair Kumar? Just quickly. Waiting for Alistair Kumar. Alistair Kumar, who has the production? Oh my God.
And I'm not Sunita. That's so funny.
Sunita, I can't find you. I'm so sorry. Use this quick pause when I'm saying hello to Alistair Kumar, who used to be the casting director of the Donmar Warehouse, who cast this production, who cast my first movie, Mary Queen of Scots, and who is now the head of casting at the National Theatre. Wow, you're so impressive.
I know, sorry. Sunita's much more interesting than me.
No, but Alistair Kumar, what do you want to say to actors who are just graduating drama school and who are aspiring during this period of our theatres being locked down? I have not prepared you for this question.
My heart's with you. I mean, it's really hard. The one thing that the whole training's been leading up to has been taken away from you. But myself and a lot of my colleagues are trying as hard as possible to watch what you're doing online as well. And I know a lot of your schools are doing brilliant work around that. But don't be downhearted. It's a long game, and it's going to be a tough couple of years. But I think the industry will really, really rally around you and really know how tough this moment must be. So don't be downhearted. Play the long game, and be optimistic. We'll look after you.
Alistair, that's so beautiful. I'm going to just end that there because you're not going to top that. I mean, you might, but, All right, look. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Right, Sunita, come on. We can do this. Where are you, Sunita? There you are, there you are. There you are.
Yay!
Sunita, how are you doing?
I'm all right. This is like a whole new world. I don't understand what's happening.
Very much to me, as I think everyone's become very aware of as I've tried to pull this shit together.
You're in the right direction, so that's good.
Sunita, how are you doing? We're nearly there. I'm going to jump back to Tom in a sec, otherwise people
of course. It's nearly the end,
Just give me your happiest memory from this show.
I think the company were just like a delightful bunch of people. We had a lovely time. There was a lot of people in a very small space, and everyone found their little space and their people. And I think the half-hour call video is like testament to how, like, all the joy. So just the people and the audiences.
Encouragement for stage managers during this period who are graduating?
Yeah, so we did that video to encourage a bit of diversity in the industry, which we are lacking in. So if anyone has any questions, and as Alistair said, we've just got to be hopeful. I mean, we will get back to work at some point. So there we go.
I know you and Erin are there to talk to people, and you very generously want to encourage as much diversity as you can. So get in touch. All right.
Yes,
please. Tom. Sunita, it's so great to see you. Lots of love. Bye.
Good luck.
Tom, are you there? Just a big bit. Where are you, Tom Hiddleston? Come on. Well, everyone can just watch this quietly while I wait for Tom.
Hi. Hey.
So good, this bit of acting. I sort of want to sit in a bit of respectful silence. With man breaking.
Mother. One a happy victory to Rome.
It's quite hard to watch. Quite difficult to weird. Very weird. Very weird.
It's also your endeavour, because what does this mean? This means.
Oh, it's the final reconciliation. It's the final kind of catharsis of this great theme between mother and son. This hard man who's become progressively harder for 3 hours suddenly softens and weeps. And there's this line here which I always thought was the most extraordinary subtle bit of direction from Shakespeare, which is, "And sir, it is no little thing to make mine eyes to sweat compassion." So that's sort of Shakespeare saying, you need to be. Probably need to cry now. And the idea that this guy we've been talking about, he's changed from man to dragon. He moves like an engine. Where there is no more mercy in him than there is milk in a male tiger. The image of a male tiger does not conjure up an image of softness or vulnerability or open-heartedness or empathy or anything. It just is ferocity and power. And suddenly you have a warrior machine, so moved by the sight of his mother, wife and sons entreaty, that he weeps, and he agrees not to take revenge on the city that banished him. But in that contract, he knows that he has signed his own death warrant.
And they know that too.
And his mother knows it as well. And so this is they all know this is goodbye, that they will never see each other again. And it's quite something to play. It's I talked early on about kind of coming on and it like starting a very long race, running around the track and just running with a kind of repetitive intensity that with every revolution of the track, the play gets more and more and more intense, and the tension builds and builds and finally breaks here. And then Shakespeare drives it home with a closing scene. But you've had this warrior described in blood, described in scars, described in kind of, Cominius says he struck Coriolanus like a planet. Orpheus is going to accuse him of being a boy of tears, and is going to reduce his whole life to being a boy of tears. And I think that something only Shakespeare could write it, which is the human capitulation to feel something honest and real and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Is the reason he is executed.
Yeah.
So it's almost like at the moment of his growth, which is to learn how to be vulnerable, to weep, to open his heart, is the moment he makes himself. He's the idea of a character being executed for his vulnerability. It's pure tragedy. It's reversal, recognition, catharsis, or whatever the structure of tragedy is supposed to be.
Although I don't think it's an argument. It's not a warning against vulnerability, is it?
No, it's actually I think a championing of vulnerability. It's what makes it so sad.
Yeah. And what's coming up?
If he had softened earlier, he may not have suffered the same fate.
Yeah.
But he was so proud for so long that to withdraw now is to seal his death warrant. And what's extraordinary?
Also, sorry.
No.
Talking before about women directors, and because I am not a man, I think one of the ways in which I was able to look at this play is about the demands that some societies make on men, you know, and how much they require of them when they ask them. And of course, the world has changed now. We ask this of women as well, but when they ask them to fight and to be hard and to be cruel, and to be invulnerable and to suppress their feelings for the sense of something that they're meant to be, that is unattainable without the potential of the horrible sacrifice and genocide, actually, that Coriolanus calls on when he goes over to Ophidius. Wow, this is heavy. Sorry, people. So there's this awful death. Let's talk about this practically so people aren't worried about you. When I was looking through my photos in my iPhone of this period, I saw one where we did this test of what's about to happen to you, where you are suspended upside down. And it has our producer, Kate Pakenham, and general manager, Joe, with their faces doing this as they look at the test in the stalls of the Donmar. I mean,
it was a funny one. We were all worried about it, weren't we? We were all worried about how long can you suspend a human being upside down by his ankles?
And we're about to find out.
It was such a weird sensation every night. It was almost like, inside myself, of course, I was, aware of the power of the scene and everything, but inside myself, it was almost a relief. It was almost a relief for it that the story is over.
You didn't have to do another big emotional beat.
That whatever was required from me internally to give this amazing story shape and meaning, it's over. The rest is silence or whatever it is. And just hanging upside down, minding my own business is wasn't too bad. It was okay.
I mean, it's my video's buffering again, so I don't know where we are, but it's
I'm hanging upside down now
as well. So this body, to go back to the idea of the wounds and the shower and all this body that this city is obsessed with, that Ophidius is obsessed with, and in the end is treated like this piece of meat by being suspended upside down. And you sort of really, this is grim, okay, but you really felt the warehouse at that moment as well, I think, in a sort of powerful, awful way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, mine's come back live and you are twizzling. I think I'm practicing the twizzle or not, so you weren't too spinny.
Technical term. Yeah.
Well, there's like at a certain speed that would be funny, wouldn't it? So.
No, yeah, you wouldn't want to be like, it wouldn't want to be too much. Yeah.
No.
It would be silly.
Yeah.
Yes. And amazing kind of synergy of cast and company. Because I actually was wearing a very complicated harness underneath my costume, so that when Dwayne comes over he clips me in, and actually the weight I'm being pulled up by my hips, not by my ankles.
Yeah. I
think if I had been pulled up by my ankles, I may have damaged them significantly.
Yeah.
And having everybody, Dave in the
I'm just going to say it's ended, so there is lots of applause going on. I'm following the YouTube comments and I'm following your comments, and people are applauding, and I'm just going to take my own applause for all of the actors. There we go. We'll get a curtain call.
My applause to you. And my applause to everybody who made this possible, everybody behind the scenes, the crew, the house managers, people front of house at the Donmar, the producers. It was lovely to see Al, and literally everyone who made this possible, and Sunita and Erin and
Sally,
Matt, Dave and Sally and Kate and Rob, and so thank you to all of you, and thank you to the audience. Thank you to anyone who came to see it when we did it 6 years ago, and thank you for tuning in to listen to us have a little chat about it today.
And just follow my adventures in tech. So just a little grace note for this: if you've enjoyed this curtain call, please bear in mind that some of the relief you can see on the actors' faces is because they've just done a live broadcast into cinemas not just a play. And I think you do kind of feel preserved, don't you, in a weird way? It's not like movies, you don't get another take, but it doesn't go right. So that collective act of concentration is absolutely massive.
Worth saying. Very good point. Like having done lots of different kinds of, acted in different kinds of things. Acting for film, acting for television, acting on stage, acting for radio, acting whatever. This is like doing one of these is a completely unique experience, because it doesn't feel like acting for the theatre, really.
No, it's a different thing.
You know that the largest audience is actually not in the room.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't feel like acting for camera in any conventional way, like making a film or a television series, because it's live. It's one big take for the actors. It's completely unique. We were all like.
And look, there's a last shot of the Donmar Warehouse that, like so many of our theatres, currently has their doors closed. So that for me is a very, very poignant thing, because I've worked on and off at that theatre since I was 23, when I trained there. So
amazing.
It's a very strange thing to think of it not open. I'm sure a lot of people feel that, because if you're on here, you're probably a theatre fan or care about theatre, or maybe this is something that will persuade you to go and see a bit more of it when it's back. But your support is so important, and I don't mean donations. I mean you're being here and watching this and being with us. It's really moving, actually. It's a moving play, and people's performances are amazing, and it's so great to have this little reunion. But what's really moving to me is just to feel like we've been together with an audience through this. It's not a thing, but it's a bit closer, isn't it?
Yeah. And we'll all be back. We will be back one day, whenever that day comes. We have to believe this strange moment is temporary. And, talking of the ancient classical cultures, the Greeks and the Romans, people sort of think of the contemporary sense of theatre was invented in 2,500 years ago. And theatre isn't going anywhere, I think. We'll be back. We'll be back with streamers and balloons and celebrations.
Yep, we will. Tom, do you want to do, just for these brilliant people who've watched, I will quickly bash through a couple of questions just to see if there's anything.
Yes.
Is that all right? Should we
Yeah.
do that? Just to say.
Yeah. Do we have to do? We don't have to do anything else.
No, we do. Yeah, but in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just one. I want you to do two questions for me. How do you overcome your nerves on stage?
You never do. You just get used to kind of. You just get used to them. You just go, oh, there you are. Hello, nerves. You're coming with me because we've got no choice, and you might be useful. The truth is, I think maybe somebody brilliant like Judi Dench told me once, you never stop getting nervous, and you need them. You need to know that it's a special moment, that it's part of the ritual of something, of walking onto a stage in front of a group of strangers to tell a story is an amazing thing. And it's not usual. It's not. It should be something that makes you a bit nervous, because it's a very special thing. And so I don't ever really kind of make peace with my nerves. I do always have them. I know it sounds strange, but people think I don't. But I've been doing this for a very long time. Amazing. But if you're nervous, it means you care about it, and if you care about it, it means you stand a chance of communicating something.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's very good. I'm going to take one question, which is just admiring my hair. Yes, I cut it myself, but it is a mullet at the back. So thank you. And let me see.
Josie, you don't win in the mullet competition. competition, I'm afraid.
No, I know. So yeah. Fave memory of the play. My favourite memory of the play, if I am really honest, is Tom, you saying that you would do it with me. I was never more excited than in that moment and really felt the chance. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's my answer. Okay, so we are going to say thank you and sign off, I think.
Yeah.
This has been an experience. Thank you for your patience and your kindness. Thank you for your excellent questions and for sticking with it. Coriolanus is on YouTube for the next 7 days. It will be followed by the amazing Mark Gatiss, who played Menenius, giving his Madness of King George from the Nottingham Playhouse. So
Yeah.
you should definitely check that out. It's a good leverness and the intensity of this, and Mark giving another extraordinary performance.
Yeah.
Do again, Coriolanus, if you want to, without us in your ear. I will save these videos to my Instagram so you can watch them or just like pick up any tech tips from them, because that went really smoothly. And sending loads
It was
and
brilliant,
loads of
Josie. You're brilliant. You're brilliant. Not only are you a virtuoso theatre and film director, but you are also a immaculate hoster of Instagram Live.
Well, I am missing hosting, I have to say. It's strange not to have parties. I like a party. We'll have lots of parties when this crazy is over. Thank you to everyone who helped with the production. Thank you, Tom Hiddleston. Thank you to everyone who donated. Thank you to everyone who watched. Please keep supporting the National Theatre. Please keep supporting the Donmar Warehouse Theatre in general. And that's it.
Thank you to Donmar. Thank you to the National. Thank you, Coriolanus Company. Thank you to the audience, always. We couldn't do what we do without you. So thank you for that. From the bottom of all of our hearts, you are what make the theatre what it is.
Namaste. All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care, everybody. Look after yourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of that. We'll be back one day with different hair. Okay. Bye.
Bye. Bye.